Corrupt politicians frame black judge to destroy her career, but minutes later, she shocks the court with the truth. Judge Angela Morrison had spent her life fighting for justice until the system she believed in turned against her. Branded a criminal, betrayed by those she trusted, and hunted by powerful enemies, she stood before the court with one final chance to expose the truth. What she revealed next didn't just clear her name. It sent shockwaves through the entire nation. Judge Angela Morrison sat tall in her chair, her face calm but firm. The courtroom was silent, filled with tension. Reporters, lawyers, and spectators held their breath. In front of her stood Senator William Hawthorne, his jaw tight, his eyes sharp with anger. She looked straight at him and spoke. This court finds that the redistricting plan proposed by Senator William Hawthorne is unconstitutional and intentionally designed to suppress black and minority voters. Effective immediately, the districts will be redrawn to ensure fair representation. Gasps filled the room. A murmur rippled through the crowd. A young black activist in the back wiped a tear from her eye. The senator's lawyer clenched his fists. The ruling was final. Angela stood up and left the courtroom, her heart pounding. She had done what was right. Justice had spoken, but she knew this was just the beginning. Outside, the streets boiled with noise. Protesters waved signs. Some cheered for Angela, calling her a hero. Others shouted, calling her a traitor. News cameras swarmed, capturing every moment. Reporters threw questions at her, but she didn't stop. She walked straight to her car and drove home. That night, Angela turned on the news. Every major channel was covering her ruling. Conservative media blasted her, calling her an activist judge. Political figures accused her of bias. Her name trended on social media, filled with hate messages. Threats poured into her inbox. Some people called her brave. Others wanted her gone. Her phone buzzed. It was Judge Randall Pierce, a longtime colleague and friend. She picked up. "Angela, you made history today," Randall said, his voice low. "And a lot of enemies," she replied. "That's what I wanted to talk about," he said. "This case, it wasn't just another ruling. You stepped on powerful toes. You need to be careful." Angela sighed. "I did my job. The law is the law." Randall hesitated. "Listen, I've been hearing things. Whispers. You should take a break, at least for a while. Let the heat die down. You know I can't do that. If I step back now, I send the wrong message." Randall sighed. "Just be careful." Angela hung up and sat in silence. She wasn't scared. She had faced pressure before, but this felt different. Later that night, she stepped outside to get some air. The street was quiet. A cold breeze brushed against her skin. When she opened her mailbox, she saw it. A single white envelope. No stamp. No return address. Just her name in bold letters. She pulled it out, heart pounding. She opened it. Inside, one sentence stared back at her. "Stay in your lane, or be run off the road." Angela's fingers tightened around the paper. Her breath caught in her throat. She looked up and down the street. Nothing. Just the hum of distant traffic. But she knew someone had been here. Someone was watching. For the first time that day, fear crept in. This was not just angry words on the news. This was a warning, and she had no doubt that it was real. The attacks grew worse. The Judicial Ethics Committee announced an investigation into her finances. They claimed to have proof of bribery. Fake bank records showed unexplained money transfers in her name. People who once supported her now hesitated. The media pushed the story hard. Every hour, another pundit questioned her integrity. "If she's innocent, why does her name appear in these transactions?" one anchor asked. "Where's the proof that she's clean?" another challenged. Even her allies wavered. Old friends stopped returning her calls. Her law clerks avoided eye contact. The walls were closing in. Then, the arrest came. Federal agents stormed into her office. They placed her in handcuffs, leading her through the courthouse. The cameras flashed. The reporters swarmed. Her face was everywhere. People gasped as she was escorted outside. Protesters cheered. Others wept. Some screamed at her, calling her a fraud. Her once sterling reputation was being erased in real time. Inside the courtroom, she saw familiar faces, colleagues, friends. They avoided her gaze. She wasn't just losing her career. She was losing everything. Then came the final betrayal. Her former law clerk took the stand. Angela had mentored her. She had trusted her. But now, under pressure, the clerk lied. I saw Judge Morrison accept money for rulings, she said. Angela's stomach dropped. The lie crushed her. She had spent her life fighting for justice. Now, justice had turned its back on her. Angela sat in her holding cell that night, staring at the wall. The system she believed in had failed her. But this wasn't the end. She had one choice left. Fight back. She clenched her fists. She wouldn't let them win. She would prove the truth, no matter what it took. And she would bring down everyone who had tried to destroy her. Days passed, and Angela's legal team worked tirelessly. They knew the case was built on lies, but the public had already made up their minds. Every TV channel, every news outlet, every social media post painted her as guilty. She had no chance in the court of public opinion. Then a breakthrough. A whistleblower, a former campaign staffer from Senator Hawthorne's office, came forward. He claimed to have evidence of a coordinated effort to frame Angela. He had emails, phone recordings, and financial documents showing how fake records were planted in her name. Angela's legal team moved fast. They pushed for the case to be reopened. They demanded an internal investigation into the Judicial Ethics Committee. The tide was turning, but the fight was far from over. Even as the truth emerged, some still refused to believe it. The media hesitated to retract their statements. The damage to Angela's name was done. She had lost so much. But she had one thing left, her determination. She wouldn't stop until everyone responsible was held accountable. She wouldn't rest until she cleared her name. The fight for truth was not easy. Angela's longtime friend, investigative journalist Maya Brooks, had been working day and night to uncover the conspiracy. She dug through encrypted files, searching for proof of Angela's innocence. Then, she found something. A hidden exchange of emails between high-level officials. The messages revealed a coordinated plan to frame Angela, destroy her career, and remove her from the bench. Maya printed the documents, her hands shaking. This was the proof Angela needed. Meanwhile, a mysterious figure reached out to Angela's legal team. They claimed to be an insider, someone who worked within the judicial system. This person had seen the evidence planted against Angela firsthand. They wanted to help. But before the meeting could happen, the source vanished. No calls, no messages, just gone. Angela's home became a target. Vandals spray-painted threats across her garage. Her family received anonymous calls, voices whispering that she should give up before it was too late. One morning, her mother called, her voice trembling. "Angela, they're watching us. I saw a black car parked outside the house all night." Then came the ultimatum. An offer arrived through her lawyer. Resign quietly, and the case would disappear. No trial, no jail, no public humiliation. She could walk away if she just admitted defeat. Angela refused. That night, as she drove home from a late meeting with her attorneys, headlights appeared in her rearview mirror. A car followed her, staying close no matter how many turns she took. She sped up. So did the car. Her grip tightened on the wheel. She tried to lose them, taking a sharp right. The car behind her didn't hesitate. It accelerated. Angela's heart pounded. The words from the note echoed in her mind. Stay in your lane, or be run off the road. Then, the other driver made their move. They swerved sharply, ramming into the back of her car. Angela's body lurched forward. She fought to keep control. Another hit. Her tires screeched. She was running out of road. At the last second, she veered onto a side street, slamming on the brakes. The car sped past her, disappearing into the night. Angela sat there, breathing hard. Her hands trembled. Someone had just tried to kill her. This was no longer just about clearing her name. This was war. Angela knew she needed to act fast. She contacted Maya and laid out a new plan. They had to gather more proof, go deeper into the corruption, and expose everyone involved. They needed more than leaked emails. They needed people willing to speak out. Maya worked tirelessly, setting up secret meetings with potential whistleblowers. Slowly, pieces of the puzzle began falling into place. More names surfaced: judges, politicians, corporate donors, each one tied to the conspiracy. One night, Angela's mother called again, panic in her voice. "Angela, someone broke into the house." Angela rushed over. Papers were scattered. Drawers were pulled open. A chilling message was scrawled on the mirror in red paint. Drop the case. This was beyond intimidation. This was a declaration of war. But Angela wouldn't stop. She couldn't. She would fight back, no matter what it took. Angela sat in the courtroom, her hands gripping the table. This was the same room where she had delivered justice for years. Now, she was the one on trial. The prosecution wasted no time. They painted her as corrupt, twisting facts and presenting doctored evidence. "This is a woman who abused her power," the prosecutor said, his voice ringing through the courtroom. "She took bribes. She manipulated cases. She betrayed the trust of the people." Angela's lawyer, David Carter, stood. "Objection. These are baseless claims." The judge, a stern-looking man, nodded. "Sustained. But let's keep this moving." Angela kept her face calm, but inside, anger burned. She had worked too hard to let them destroy her. Then, the worst happened. During a short recess, her phone rang. It was an unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. "They got Maya," a shaky voice said. It was one of Maya's assistants. "She was attacked. She's in the hospital." She was about to publish her report, and then Angela's chest tightened. Maya had been her strongest ally, digging for the truth. And now, someone had silenced her. Angela slammed her phone down. "We need to act fast," she told David. "They're getting desperate." Her lawyer nodded. "Then we push harder." The next day, Angela's legal team presented their first breakthrough. They had found surveillance footage showing her financial accounts being accessed remotely. A hacker had manipulated her records. The evidence was undeniable. "This proves my client was framed," David said, handing the documents to the judge. "She never received illegal money. The real criminals are still out there." The courtroom buzzed. The prosecution shifted uncomfortably. Then, the next shot came. A man in a dark suit walked into the courtroom. He raised his hand to testify. "My name is Michael Brooks," he said. "I was a political staffer for Senator William Hawthorne, and I have something to say." Angela's pulse raced. She knew this name. Maya had mentioned him before she was attacked. Michael took a deep breath. "I was part of the plan to frame Judge Morrison." Gasps filled the room. The prosecutor's face turned pale. Michael continued. "I was ordered to alter her financial records. I was told to spread false reports to the media. Senator Hawthorne didn't want her in power. He wanted her gone." Angela felt a mix of relief and rage. She had known it all along, but now she had proof. The judge looked at the prosecutor. "Do you have a response to this?" The prosecutor stammered, but before he could speak, another person stood up. Judge Randall Pierce. Angela's breath caught. Randall had warned her before. But why was he here now? He stepped onto the witness stand, his face pale. He adjusted his tie. Then he spoke. "I was threatened," he said. "If I didn't go along with the plan, I would lose everything." He looked directly at Angela. "I'm sorry. I should have told you." Angela's throat tightened. Randall had been a friend. And now, he was admitting the truth. "I was told to look the other way when the fake evidence appeared." Randall continued. "I was told to remain silent when Angela was framed. But I can't live with it anymore." Silence filled the courtroom. Then, the judge banged his gavel. "We need a full investigation. Immediately." Angela exhaled, her heart pounding. The truth was finally coming out. Outside the courthouse, reporters surrounded her. "Judge Morrison, what do you have to say?" Angela held her head high. "Justice isn't just about winning cases. It's about standing up when others try to silence you." And with that, she walked forward, ready to finish the fight. Angela sat motionless as the jury filed back into the courtroom. Each second stretched endlessly. She glanced at David, who gave her a reassuring nod. The judge turned to the jury foreperson. "Has the jury reached a verdict?" A woman in her 40s stood, her expression unreadable. "We have, Your Honor." Angela's pulse pounded in her ears. The courtroom was silent. "On the charge of bribery and corruption, we find the defendant not guilty." Gasps erupted in the room. Some people cheered. Others shouted in anger. Angela felt a rush of relief, but she remained composed. She turned to David, who grinned. But outside, the battle continued. Protesters filled the courthouse steps. Some called her a hero. Others still believed the lies. Reporters shoved microphones toward her as she walked out, flashing cameras blinding her. She paused and faced the crowd. "I am innocent," she said firmly. "And now, the real criminals will be held accountable." Soon after, an official investigation into Senator Hawthorne and his allies was launched. Corrupt officials resigned. Some faced charges. The system that tried to bury Angela was crumbling. But Angela wasn't going back to her old life. "I'm running for Attorney General," she announced to the press. If they think I'll back down, they're wrong. I will clean up this system from within. As she walked away, her phone buzzed. An unknown number. She glanced at the message. You may have won this round, but the fight isn't over. Angela read it, then smiled. She was ready for whatever came next.